What's up YouTube, I'm Steelxknight Plays, and today I'm going to be bringing you my ranking of all the different encounters that you can get while doing a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green. I only just completed a hardcore Nuzlocke of it here on my channel. I stream it live here on YouTube. So I'm going to go over the criteria met for where I'm going to be ranking the Pokemon. So basically it falls down to how good the Pokemon really is, how it's useful with different obstacles as well as gyms throughout the game, the likelihood of you running into it, and more importantly, what encounters are going to be lost for you running into it. The hardcore Nuzlocke rules are, of course, if your Pokemon faints, it's dead. You can only catch the one Pokemon per route, which is crucial. No items in battle. Can't level up past the next gym leader's ace, as well as we're playing on set mode. So every encounter is huge. So we're going to start straight in with the starters, of course. We're going to go straight with my boy Venusaur. I'm going to put him straight up into S. That might be a bold statement. Again, this is going to be my tier list, so if it comes off as wrong or anything like that, it's just my personal preference while I was going through the Nuzlocke. This is what helped me, so I would love to hear what you guys have to say in the comments, though. Venusaur, I feel like, is extremely useful, especially at the beginning. Of course, you have Brock as well as Misty. He even does pretty well into Lieutenant Surge. He does pretty well throughout the rest of the game. Of course, you got to be careful of like Sabrina, and not really helpful with Poga or Blaine, but starting out, he's really good Pokemon, as well as, of course, he has Leech Seed, as well as all the other supports. Grass types aren't as good in Gen 1, however, I feel like Venusaur is a fantastic Pokemon, so he's going straight into S tier for me personally. With that said, this might be a bit controversial. I'm actually going to put Charizard into B tier. I kind of feel like, I don't know if it's just because he's a flying type with it, but the fire Pokemon in this game kind of get the short end of the stick. He does have some difficulty, especially if you're picking Charizard. You better hope you only have about 4 encounters before Brock, so you better hope you get something good beforehand, which we'll cover over as we go through the routes. But it struggles against Brock. Misty doesn't do well into Lieutenant Surge really either. It's nice to have that firepower because it's definitely helpful when you go up into Erica, as well as some of the later fights, especially with your rival and stuff. It's nice to have a flyer as well. However, I feel like as far as the starters go, Charizard is definitely the worst of the 3. I'm going to put him in B. He does still have a high base stat total, so we will keep him rather high up. I might end up putting him into A. I'm not quite sure. With that said, Blastoise, we'll put straight into A. It's a fantastic water type Pokemon. It's not as good as some of the ones that are going to be ranked up higher, which you'll see. I'm sure you can guess on which ones those are going to be. Blastoise is definitely useful into the Brock, neutral against Misty. Lieutenant Surge definitely can't really do much with that, as well as Erica. However, as a water type Pokemon, they're pretty abundant throughout Kanto, so even still, it still does quite a bit of damage among other things. So we'll leave it as is and leave it in A tier. Moving on to Route 1, we have only 2 options, and they're both pretty bad, to be honest. First, we have Pidgeot, as I mean, you can catch Pidgey. It's a 50-50 between Pidgey as well as Rattata. Pidgeot, compared to all the other flying Pokemon in this game, it's just not good. It is kind of bulky. It's convenient at the beginning, but I'm gonna put him straight into C, which is just eh. It's an okay Pokemon, but it just doesn't. Its moveset's really bad, as well as it doesn't fare well compared to some of the later birds that we're gonna talk about. With that said, I am gonna be putting Raticate into B, primarily just because if it can have the ability Guts boosted, like Sod, or just Guts in general, having that with Return as well, like Raticate can be really useful, as well as it does get Hyper Fang, among a few other things, but more so just the fact that it can have Guts and it hits like a truck sometimes. It really does have that rat power. I learned that from Flygon. Moving on to Route 22, just to the west of Viridian City, either or. We do have a couple more encounters. I mean, you can run into Rattata again if in the case you don't get it, but you're gonna want to look out for one of the other ones more so if you're picking Charmander going into Brock. First one being Primate. Primate, it's an okay fighting Pokemon. I'm gonna put him in B tier. It's definitely nice. It's definitely a nice answer to Brock, just because he does get, pretty sure he gets low sweep early on, among other fighting moves. He's just kind of useful to have in the early game. He does quite a bit of damage. He's kind of frail, not that great. He's not too bulky or anything, so he doesn't really hold well against some of the other Pokemon. However, it's a decent fighting type Pokemon right off the bat. With that said, we do have Fearow as well as an option. Less chance to run into it, but honestly, Fearow is also going to go right into B. Definitely better than Pidgeot. Fearow is just faster and deals more damage. Honestly, it's more reliable. Getting a Spearow is definitely ideal, just because it's so useful going on later on, of course, with like Erica, among other fights. Just having a really nice high damage flyer on your team is really convenient for fights down the road as well. Now with that said, moving past that, we do have Route 2. Route 2, you have a really small chance of running into either a Caterpie or Weedle. However, with mentioning that you can run into both Pidgey as well as Rattata, since we covered those, we can move on. If in the case you do run into Caterpie, I think Butterfree's actually really good at the beginning. Also going into B tier, probably better than you know what? Better than Primeape. Fearow's better than Raticate for sure. It's really convenient to have for status effects. You do have Sleep Powder, especially if you have Compound Eyes. It brings up your different powder abilities up to like 90-something% is the ability. It's a pretty decent. It's not that great of an answer, but you can use it against Brock. But in case you do have Charmander, you don't really have an answer. Can be somewhat useful. Hopefully you can get a Primeape going into it. I think you have 4 encounters right before Brock, so having a Butterfree is really convenient. Beedrill, I love Beedrill. It looks so cool, but it's just not good, unfortunately. It does look badass. It does. I don't even know when it learns Twin Needle. It's just not a good Pokemon. It doesn't learn any really good bug moves. I feel like it's more of a nuisance than anything when you're going through the early game of running into Weedles and getting Poison Stung and fucking. It's not that great of a Pokemon, unfortunately. With that said, going into Viridian Forest, those two are going to be the primary ones. It's either going to be Caterpie or Weedle or Metapod or Kakuna. However, there is a really small percent chance, I think it's a 5% chance for you to run into Pikachu. With that said, Raichu is actually pretty decent. Let me move this up a little bit. Raichu, I'd say is a B tier Pokemon as well. We will fill this out, I promise. I'd say it's better than Primeape, better than Butterfree, better than Raticate. I'd say it's right up there with Fearow. It's just not as good of an electric Pokemon as you want, because it doesn't have that much bulk. Its special attack's okay. It's not that fast either, but it is convenient to have, especially going into Misty. It's not going to be helpful for Brock at all. However, if you can bring it into Misty, it's also helpful among a couple other fights, but nothing of note aside from primarily Misty. And then going forward, there are better electric types, but it's nice to have on the team, more so just to have for Thunder Wave, as well as status conditions for the rest of your team. We're going to be bringing in our next S tier right here. Right past Brock, if you go east into Route 3, we do have, at least if you're playing Fire Red, you have a chance to run into Nidoran, and to be honest, Nidoking straight into S tier, better than Venusaur. Better than Venusaur for sure. Nidoking is just an absolute monster. Like it's an S tier. It's an S tier for a reason. The thing has incredible bulk, damage. It has huge versatility as far as what it can learn. As far as like it can learn a shitload of TMs. To be honest, I don't know why it learned Surf, but for some reason, its attack and its special attack are pretty neck and neck. It's really good Pokemon. Hits like a truck, especially if you can put Earthquake on it. It doesn't do really well past. It can't do anything to Sabrina, to be honest. It helps Wall with Koga. Helps with Erica, of course. Blaine, it helps because it's the ground type. You can go straight into the Elite Four. This thing can wipe team, to be honest. It's really good. I mean, it doesn't really do good against Lorelei. Has an answer for Bruno, Agatha, Lance, and of course your rival. Nidoking is just an absolute monster. Unfortunately, if you are playing Leaf Green, you get the short end of the stick. Nidoqueen is really, really good. However, it's more A tier. It's better. It's more like knockoff Nidoking. It's more bulky. It doesn't deal as much damage, so it's not as useful. Or I mean, it's still an amazing Pokemon. Don't get me wrong. Nidoqueen's still a fantastic Pokemon. It's bulkier. Still pretty much the same movesets among other things, but you are stuck with that as opposed to the Nidoking. Pretty sure there's a way you can trade them in the game at some point. However, if you don't get a Nidoran male or female, as well as if you've already gotten your Spearow or your Mankey encounters, the only other option that you have, which is a terrible option, is Jigglypuff, which is just not good in this game. It is somewhat bulky, which is okay. It can learn a bunch of different TMs. I'd say it's better than Beedrill as well as Pidgeot. It's just, if you run into this Pokemon, the problem is you're not getting a Nidoran, male or female, or if by the time you don't have a Spearow or a Mankey, that could be an issue as well. Moving forward, before going into Mount Moon, you do have the opportunity inside the Pokemon Center to be able to buy a Magikarp for 500 gold, which you can get a Gyarados before Misty, and I don't even know if I really need to fully explain this. Gyarados is just an absolute... In any Nuzlocke, this thing is the most broken Pokemon. It's not as broken in Fire Red, Leaf Green, but it's going straight into S tier. It can have Intimidate. It's really bulky, surprisingly. It doesn't really have great special attack, but it's really fast. It's really bulky. It has extremely high attack. You can use it for basically any fight later down the road, except for Surge. The fact that you can have this thing before Misty is wild, especially because it does learn Bite. I'm pretty sure it learns Bite at level 20 or 21 for her Starmie, which can be really useful. Gyarados is just an absolute monster. Its base stat total is through the roof. You just gotta get your Magikarp up to 20. But yeah, it's just... there's so many opportunities to run into a Gyarados that it's basically a guaranteed encounter on your team at some point. Just because you do get the old route going into Vermilion or what have you. So we'll get there when we get there. Past that, going into Mount Moon, the most likely option that you're going to get is going to be a Zubat. Unfortunately, even though it's Gen 3, we don't have the option to get Crobat, and Golbat is really not good in Fire Red and Leaf Green. Definitely better than Beedrill. However, it's just not good. It doesn't have much bulk to it. It's more of an annoyance than anything. The issue is its moveset's really bad. It's a relatively quick Pokemon, so at least there's that, and it's a flyer, so I'm not going to put it into F. It's not useless, it's just not great in Fire Red. It's more so its moveset is just not good. Secondary, if you can run into a Geodude, Geodude's actually really solid, depending on if you're able to do trades or not. If you're doing hardcore Nuzlocke on your very, very real DS or what have you, or whatever, or Game Boy Advance that you're using, and not an emulator, you might have an opportunity to trade, so you might be able to get Golem. But if not, you're stuck with Graveler, and Graveler's not a bad Pokemon. It's actually a pretty good wall into a lot of different things. It does do quite a bit of damage. It's just not as good as a Golem. Imagine that. Its defense is through the roof. Special defense is its speed is pretty poor. However, it is still a relatively bulky good Pokemon and a good answer into Lieutenant Surge afterwards, as well as even Koga. Not so much for the Sabrina, but good for Blaine. It's still a Graveler. Whereas, like, if you can get Golem's going into A for sure. Not necessarily as good as Nidoqueen, but it's just really good. It learns Earthquake via level up. It hits like a truck. This thing has really high speed, high attack, high defense. If you're able to get a Golem, if you're able to trade for it, a great encounter to get in Mount Moon. It's probably the best Pokemon that you can get in Mount Moon, to be honest. And the worst one that you can get, and if you get this, then you might as well restart your game, is Parasect. If you run into a Paras, that's that sucks. Paris is the first Pokemon we're putting straight into useless. This Pokemon is just awful, not good. Somehow its attack is okay. However, it's as slow as a rock. Its defense is eh. Its attack is okay. You can't even get Spore until really late, but you'd have to hold on to your Paris before evolving. It's just not a good Pokemon. If you get this, throw that thing in the box or release it. It's not worth keeping. It's just awful. The only reason you'd want to put this down on your team is for a sack. And lastly, the 1%, or I guess 5%, depending on what floor you're on, is the Clefairy. Clefable's okay. It's relatively bulky. It's not a bad Pokemon. So I will put it into B. It's like knockoff Snorlax, to be honest. So it's definitely better. It's like up here by Raichu. It has probably the most diverse TM move pool, like, of pretty much any Pokemon. It can learn a lot of different things, but it's not really great at anything. It's like a jack of all trades kind of Pokemon, so it's not fantastic. With that said, going through Mount Moon, of course, you get whatever fossil you get. We can go into that later. Can't do anything till you get to Cinnabar anyway with those. Going forward, you do past Mount Moon, you're going straight into Route 4, similar to where you got your Magikarp, but we'll call that a gift Magikarp. Now, for Fire Red, you have the opportunity to get Ekans or Arbok later down the road, and normally I would throw this thing straight into C or maybe even F. However, I am going to put it into the lowest part of B tier, maybe C, we'll see, only for the fact that this thing can know Intimidate. Intimidate is just an incredible ability to have in a Nuzlocke, for the fact that you can just drop your opponent's attack as soon as you go in. So there's really niche, like, unique opportunities for you to be able to like take advantage of that and to get lowered stats. So I'm gonna put him into B. I might come back to that. I don't know. He deserves to be in C, but just for that ability alone, we'll put him in B. Otherwise, he's just okay. It's not great, to be honest. It's not a good Pokemon. If you're playing Leaf Green, you do get Sand Slash. It's just not a great ground type Pokemon. It's okay. It's kind of, its attack's okay. It's better than Beedrill. Better than Golbat. It goes about right there. Mid C tier. It's okay. Its attack is okay. Its bulk is alright. It's not fast. I had higher hopes for Sand Slash and Fire Red. But aside from that, the other opportunities for Route 4 are going to be either your Mankey, your Spearow, or your Rattata encounters if you didn't get any of those. So there's that. At that point, if you're playing Fire Red, might as well pick up the Ekans just to have a chance to get Intimidate. Alright, moving on. Going past Nugget Bridge, if you're fighting Misty, you can do that. If not, I'd go straight into Nugget Bridge, so you can have 2 more encounters. So you have Route 24 and 25, both have the same exact thing. 24 is going to be directly to the western side of Nugget Bridge, and you have a chance to, in Fire Red, you have a chance to get Oddish, which, in my opinion, I think Vileplume is going into A tier. It's almost as good as Venusaur. It's really convenient to have. It's really slow, but it is a really nice grass Pokemon for status as well as a support for your team. I mean, you just have to, I mean, by the time you get Gloom up to, once you get a Gloom and you get to, what is it, Celadon? I don't remember exactly what city it is, but with the gigantic, where Erica is, you can get a Leaf Stone, and you'll be able to evolve it right then and there. As well as with Victory Bell, same exact encounter. However, I don't think Victory Bell is as good as Vileplume. So, it's definitely better than these guys, it's probably like right up in here near Raichu. As far as grass Pokemon, the grass Pokemon in Gen 1 aren't that great. Also, it's Fire Red and Leaf Green, so there's still the physical, there's no physical special split, so there's some weird niche things there. Physical grass Pokemon are just it does have some decent attributes to it. Its stats are okay, but it's a mid encounter. However, one cool Pokemon that you can get, regardless if you're able to trade it or not. If you're able to trade, then you're pretty much you won the game. If you're not able to trade, You can run into Abra. It's a low chance to run into, and as well as it does have teleport, so if you don't catch it on its first attempt, you're kind of screwed, depending on how your rule set is. However, even Kadabra, even if with it being Kadabra, it's still an A tier Pokemon. It's so damn good. It's so fast, as well as its special attack is through the roof. However, as it is really, really frail, so it may not be that useful. You can't really switch it in. You got to be really careful on how you're going to do so. If you are able to trade, you have the opportunity to get the best, arguably one of the best Pokemon in the game, if not the best Pokemon in the game. I'll put him just behind Gyarados, just because Gyarados, as well as it can have Intimidate, but no, Alakazam is better than all of them for sure. Its special attack matches that of like Mewtwo. It's through the roof, as well as and its special attack is really, really high. It's really frail though. Its defense is garbage. It's really fast, so you got to be careful on how you switch in. You better hope you're faster, because if you get hit once, you're pretty much dead. But it is a really good answer into Erica, Koga. You can use it for Blaine. Some of the Elite Four it's really useful for, as well as like Bruno and stuff with his dumbass Onyxes. But Alakazam it's a psychic type. It's a psychic type. It's Psychic Spammer. It's the best one for sure. Cool. So moving on. Your other options for that route were either Butterfree, Beedrill, or Pidgeot if you haven't gotten them, which wouldn't be great. I'd rather have either the Oddish or the Bellsprout, or potentially the Abra if you're able. With that said, past that, you're going into Misty, so you can fight her, go on to the next route, whatever. Into the next route, you have routes 5 and 6, which are the same. Now, they do have all the same Pokemon as the other ones, with Pidgey, as well as Oddish and Bellsprout. However, there is Meowth. Personally, I don't think Persian's very good in this game. It's okay. Has some high chances for crit. It's relatively fast. It's just not a good Pokemon. It's a decent normal type Pokemon. The problem is it's a normal type Pokemon, but its stats are not that great. Not that bulky. It's not that fast. Its attack is eh. So it's going in eh. With that said, going into Vermilion City, this would be one of the worst things you can do. There is a person that does want to trade a Spearow for his Farfetch'd, which is absolutely awful. I'm so tempted to put this thing in useless, but it's still a flying type Pokemon. It can have some niche uses. It's gonna go at the bottom of eh. I might even put this in F tier. It's Farfetch'd. It's not good. Until Surfetch'd, Farfetch'd is just not good. It's not a good Pokemon. Its stats are pretty garbage. There's just much better flying Pokemon to work with, so I wouldn't go with it at all. With that said, you do have the opportunity to get your old rod, so you can get Magikarp wherever now. If in the case you didn't buy the Magikarp for the 500, you can get that wherever. However, if you go to the east after going to the SSN or what have you before, on to Route 11, you can run into your version exclusive of either Ekans or Sandshrew again, as well as a Spearow. However, if you already have those out of the way, or if you're lucky, you can run, or I guess it's pretty reasonable encounter rate, you can run into Drowsy and have Hypno. Hypno is knockoff Alakazam, however, it does have the bulk to back it up. I'd say it's better than Kadabra. It's right up there with Golem. Hypno is a fantastic Pokemon to work with, to be honest. It has a lot of good versatility, as well as really good stats. Relatively slow compared to Alakazam, however, you can teach it some really, really good moves that are really useful into a multitude of different gyms going forward, from Erica to Koga. You can even teach it things like Shadow Ball and be useful for Sabrina. The Blaine, it's okay, as well as even Giovanni is eh. But going into the Elite Four, of course, against Agatha with like Shadow Ball or Bruno, or even maybe in Lance, of course your rival. Hypno's just, it's a good Pokemon all around. I ended up using it on my team as I can trade, so better than not having an Alakazam. With that said, going forward, at this point you're gonna need to either get Flash or suck it up and just go straight through a rock tunnel and not be able to see anything. Most people will do that at this point. However, you can go into Diglett's cave, and as you can imagine, you can either get Diglett or Dugtrio. Be careful, I made the mistake of using Repel and didn't realize that's a strat that people use to run into the higher level Pokemon when my Pokemon were 5 levels under the Dugtrio, and it had Dugtrio has Arena Trap, so definitely be careful of that because it can wipe your team if you're doing a Nuzlocke. However, Dugtrio, though it can hit pretty hard, it's just it's pretty frail. It does do a lot of damage, and it does get some really decent moves early on. It's kind of fast. It has no bulk though. If you flick this thing, it dies. I'll put him above Graveler. No, I'll put it above Butterfree. Graveler's above Butterfree as well. We might move him around. He's okay. Dugtrio's an okay answer. I mean, it's a guaranteed encounter. You might as well pick it up. However, going through Diglett's cave, on the other side, you do have an opportunity to trade your Abra for a Mr. Mime. I would only recommend doing it if you're not able to trade, because I think Mr. Mime goes toe-to-toe with Kadabra. It does have pretty decent special attack, and it also has the defenses to back it up, so you can actually switch in and use it for some pretty useful tactics, as well as how you want to go about the battle. You have some really good setup moves between Reflect as well as whatever screen. I can't even think of the other one. But it's not a bad pick. If you have Abra and you can't get an Alakazam, trading it for Mr. Mime on the other side, what is it, Route 4, Route 3, whatever it is, on the other side, you can go get your old Amber fossil from the museum, where Brock is in Pewter City. Yeah, Mr. Mime's okay. I'd say it's arguably a little bit better than Kadabra, just because it does have that added bulk and it has a bit more support. It can stand up on its own 2 feet without dying immediately. Going east of Cerulean City, where Misty is. Oh god, I don't know any of the names of these. You do have Route 9. Route 9, you're just gonna run into a lot of the same stuff you've already ran. If you haven't caught all these Pokemon, I don't know what to tell you, because you have your exclusive of either Sandshrew or Ekans, and then you have both Spearow as well as Eradicate. At this point, you probably have all 3 of them, so just moving on to Route 10 is probably best right before going into Rock Tunnel. With that said, if you did get those, which is really great, then you have a guaranteed chance of getting a Voltorb before going forward if you don't have an electric type, and Electrode is surprisingly pretty decent. I'd say it's bottom of A tier. Definitely better than Raichu. This thing is extremely fast. I think it's the fastest Pokemon in the game, to be honest, which is weird, but Electrode's extremely fast. It has some pretty decent special attack. Its bulk is okay. For an electric type, not too bad. Honestly, not too bad. Especially early on if you can pick it up automatically. Going into Rock Tunnel, you have a really, really small chance of running into extremely bad Pokemon, that being Onix. Onix is just bad. It's before getting Steelix, Onix is just awful. The fact that it has less attack power than Sunkern is just disgusting. I will say it can use it to like wall Pokemon, so it's not completely useless, but you could use it for a sack. I would put it straight into useless. Yeah, it's going in the F tier. Onix is just really bad. You do have an option. You do have the opportunity to run into either Geodude or Mankey or even Zubat if you haven't picked up one of those yet. More importantly, you can run into Machop. Machop is pretty decent. If you can't evolve it into Machamp, it's kind of eh. But as far as Machoke goes, it does have some pretty high attack, can do some pretty decent fighting moves, rock moves. Its stats are kind of lackluster, to be honest. We're gonna shift that upwards, but we'll put him into B. this a little bit. Yeah, he can, we'll put him into B. He does a decent amount of damage, however, it's not that great. It's not even that fast, to be honest. Its attack is okay, its defense is okay. If you can get him a champ will go into A. The champ just has really high attack. Definitely better than these guys. It's right up there with Hypno, I'd say. It hits like a truck. This thing, its speed is okay, its bulk is pretty high up there, its attack is through the roof. I mean, he has 4 arms, so of course it's not that much damage. I mean, it can be, by then, not that useful against Erica, or Koga, or Sabrina. But there are some niche cases where using a fighting type is actually pretty decent, going into, of course, I don't know, Giovanni, going into the Elite Four, as well as, you have Lorelei, among others. So, it can be okay, for a fighting type. It's alright. On the other side of Rock Tunnel, coming out into Route 8 or into Lavender Town, if you're going west, going towards Celadon, you have Route 8 and Route 7, oddly enough, on the western side, which both have the same Pokemon that you could run into, being Pidgey, Meowth, either Sandshrew or Ekans, depending on your version exclusive. But with that said, with version exclusives, if you're playing Fire Red, you have a chance to run into a Growlithe on both Route 7 and 8. So you do have an opportunity to get a good bulky fire type. That's amazing. Honestly, Arcanine is going to go straight into A. Arcanine's better than these guys. Better than that, better than that. I mean, it was almost called a legendary for a reason. Arcanine is just a fantastic Pokemon. I mean, if you can withstand evolving Growlithe for a while, so it can learn some good moves, because it doesn't learn any moves after you evolve it. I mean, you can get a Firestone as soon as you get into Celadon, which is really nice. The other alternative, if you're playing Leaf Green, would be Vulpix, and then you can get Ninetales. Ninetales is fine. I'm going to put him into B tier, better than all these guys. It does learn Flamethrower later on. I feel like it doesn't have as much utility as an Arcanine, nor does it have as much bulk. Nor does it. I feel like it's just a worse Arcanine. But, I mean, as far as fire types go, those two are probably going to be your best. I'd say they're right up there with Charizard. Charizard's probably a little bit better than Ninetales, but not better than Arcanine. Going into Celadon, you do have a free gift Eevee, and of course, your choice of which evolution is going to be completely up to you. The only thing I would say that would be completely useless, just because the moveset alone is going to be Flareon, I'm going to put it straight into C tier. I'll put it at the top, like C tier. Its attack stat is okay, however, its moveset is just awful in this game. It doesn't learn a fire move until level like 40 something, I think. It's just not good. Unless if you have TMs or if you have Flamethrower or something, it's not a good Pokemon, to be honest. So that's going to go at the bottom. With that said, we do have the other two, being Jolteon, probably the best electric type in the game. Extremely fast, high attack. Its moveset, it's also pretty but so you are going to have to use some TMs. However, this thing can be extremely useful going forward with, well, I mean, I guess that's all, but I mean, nobody really cares about that. As far as an electric type goes, though, it can be really useful into the Elite Four as well. Just a really fast, quick attacking Pokemon. Vaporeon? I'm a bit torn. Vaporeon is almost as good as Blastoise. It might. Vaporeon's like a slightly worse Blastoise, it seems. I don't know. I'm kind of torn right now, because it's just. I feel like it's not as. It does know it can learn Aurora Beam. It can learn Water Pulse. Of course, you can have it as a Surf. It's just overall a great Pokemon. I'm gonna keep it up there with Blastoise. Maybe not as good as these guys. However, Blastoise and Vaporeon are like interchangeable. If in the case if you went with Blastoise, having a Vaporeon to swap to is pretty decent. With that said, in Celadon, you do have the Game Corner. I'm not sure if you're going to be using that, what kind of rules you're using for your Nuzlocke, if you're going to be accepting using the Pokemon that you can get within that, because you can just kind of like get infinite money based on certain things, and then you have a couple different options being like Routini, or you have your version exclusive of either Scyther or Pinsir. Both aren't really great in this game. Or an Abra randomly. If for some reason you couldn't catch the Abra, you can just buy one. With that said, there is Porygon, which is extremely expensive. However, Porygon is just awful. Porygon is just really, really bad in Fire Red and Leaf Green. Its moveset's dog shit. Its stats are awful. It's really slow. It's really slow. Probably better than them. Might be more into the C tier. However, it's just not good in Fire Red and Leaf Green. Without being able to evolve or upgrade or anything like that, Porygon, for the fact that you have to spend a bunch of money on it, spend a bunch of time to get the money, to get the coins, to get it in Celadon, I'd rather have some of the other Pokemon within the area, like all the other gift Pokemon, or have an EV. At that point, I'd rather get a different Pokemon from the game corner altogether. With all that said, fighting Team Rocket, of course, you get your Self Scope, and then you go over to Lavender, and then you go into the Pokemon Tower, where all the dead Pokemon are, and you have a chance to run into Ghastly. Ghastly's definitely going to be the Pokemon you're going to run into, because there is a you can run into Cubone 5%, as well as you do have the guaranteed Marowak if you wanted to go with Marowak as opposed to using a Ghastly or Haunter. If you can't trade, using Haunter is okay. Haunter's in Fire Red Leaf Green, Haunter's okay. Its special attacks okay. Its speed's okay. It does have 2 immunities, and I'm pretty sure it has Levitate. So I'm pretty sure it has 3 immunities. I could be full of shit, but I mean, the fact that you're not getting hit by normal fighting or ground type Pokemon automatically bumps this thing up into B. And then of course with that you have Gengar going into A. Gengar is better than Machamp, better than Hypno, better than Arcanine for sure. Gengar might even go up into S tier. Gengar's extremely good. It's really fast. It's bulky. It's like a truck. Of course, you can get like Stab, Shadow Ball, as well as you can use some other strats. Why I like Pokemon Sleep, among other things. Really good into Sabrina. So really convenient to have that going forward. We're going into Saffron. After getting that, like I said, there is that guaranteed Marowak encounter. You can kill it or catch it. Marowak is just okay. It's an alright Pokemon. It's alright. It's a decent ground type. Probably about right here. Yeah. It's just not great compared to some of the other options that you can get at that point. I mean, like Dugtrio, Marowak's just okay. Its stats are decent, not great for a Nuzlocke or trying to set up with or anything like that. You can go into Saffron at this point if you get the T, and you can go to the dojo and fight the black belts there and get your gift, either Hitmonchan or Hitmonlee. For me personally, I think Hitmonlee, just because it doesn't have as much versatility, even though it does have, technically it does have higher attack. I think, what did I have here? I put Hitmonlee as B, probably above Marowak, right? Yeah, but higher than Graveler, higher than Clefable for sure. However, even though Hitmonchan doesn't deal as much damage, I feel like its defense is higher, as well as has the ability to use any of the elemental punches, and before the special physical split, it's really convenient having all those moves. And you can teach it whatever you want just to have for preparation for any upcoming fight, pretty much, from Ice Punch to Fire Punch to, of course, you have like, what is it, Bullet Punch. You have there's so many different options. Drain Punch, Hitmonchan, like mid A tier. Hitmonchan is just so useful just because of all the different things that you can use for it. After that, by then you'll have gotten your Pokeflute, and you have an opportunity to run into one of the best Pokemon in the game, that being Snorlax, going straight into S tier, better than Venusaur for sure. At this point, Venusaur's like top A, bottom S tier. We'll leave him as is. Snorlax is better than Nidoking for sure, and Snorlax is just a beast. Its defense might not be that great, but its special defense is through the roof. It has the highest HP in the game, except for maybe Chansey, but Chansey's kind of in this. Its attack is really high. Snorlax is just fantastic. You can use it for setup. Among other things, it's a guaranteed encounter on either Route 16 or on Route 12. If you're going to go on the eastern side through Lavender, if you're going to go more to Celadon. So having Snorlax, guaranteed Snorlax, I'll always catch at least one of them. And if you use the dowsing machine underneath where it's at, you can get free lefties. So having leftovers is really convenient, especially if you just slap it on there. If you are on Route 16 to the west of Celadon when you're getting Fly, and get Doduo. Doduo is on the next like 3 routes going down Cycling Road. Dodrio is the best flyer in the game for sure. If you're not using legendaries, any of the legendary birds, better than Fearow, better than Pidgeot for sure. Dodrio is like high A, like mid A tier. It's just a fantastic Pokemon. A Pokemon really high speed, as well as attack. As well, its bulk is okay. However, it does get, of course, you have Stab, Fly, among other different moves, even like Try, Attack, and stuff like that. There's Dodrio is just the best flyer in Kanto, to be fair, compared to the others. That is, for like Dragonite, but as far as like the normal flying types, that'd be the best one. There is a small, really small chance. I think it's like less than 5% chance for you to run into Lickitung down toward the bottom of Cycling Road. The chances of you running into it are relatively small, and even still, this thing's kind of bulky, but it's just not good. Its moveset's bad. I'm gonna put it like top of C tier, unless if somebody knows otherwise. Lickitung is just not good. It's not a good Pokemon. If you are going on the eastern side, from Lavender downwards towards where Snorlax is, going to get your Super Rod and Good Rod, all that stuff, seeing all the fishermen, there is grass patches, and you can get Venomoth. Venomoth is, at this point, it's just like basically the same thing as slightly better Butterfree, but at this point it's just so damn late in the game, and getting Venomoth is such a high level investment that it's just not worth it. Pretty sure I put this as C, right? Yeah, this thing is, I'd say bottom B tier. Bottom B tier. No. We'll put him top C. Top C tier. Venomoth at this point is just not good. Butterfree, it's only as high up as it is because you get it in the beginning of the game and it evolves at level 10 as opposed to like 30 something for Venomoth. So, with that said, if you are able to get Surf, you've done all the Team Rocket stuff and all that stuff, and you beat Koga, you are able to get Surf. You do have 100% guaranteed Tentacool. And in my opinion, Tentacruel, I don't even know if I'm so tempted to put Tentacruel up in A tier. Tentacruel is just such an amazing Pokemon. Definitely better than Blastoise. So I'm gonna put him just above him. It's such a fantastic Pokemon. It's extremely bulky. It has high damage. It's fast. It's a water type. It has really good utility. It can learn Toxic Spikes, among other things, so depending on how you want to use it on your team, it can be really useful. It's a really good switch-in, just because of how much bulk it has. Yeah, Tentacruel is just such a good Pokemon. Hits pretty hard, surprisingly, for as bulky as it is and fast. It's Tentacruel. People sleep on Tentacruel. That's a good Pokemon. At this point, you're getting your Good Rod, your Super Rod, and you're going to be able to catch a bunch of different kinds of fish, depending on the percentage, and as well as depending on the game. I'm pretty sure Seadra or both Horsey and Krabby are flipped depending on if it's Fire Red or Leaf Green. They're both pretty bad just because you can't get Kingdra in this, so Seadra's stuck being Seadra. Its special attack is okay, its speed is okay, but it's just kind of frail. However, you can get Kingler, which his attack is pretty high. We'll put him like right up there with Pidgeot. Kingler I will put into B tier just because it is a bit more useful and it has higher attack. like really high attack, surprisingly. Yeah, we'll put Arbok down there. We'll put Arbok. We'll put him down there. We'll put Arbok. No, maybe not that far down. Yeah, maybe not that far down. We'll put him like there. Yeah, we'll put him like right there. That's fine. Kingler, we'll put him at the bottom of B. It's okay. It's just fine. Kingler's okay. You do have a small chance to get a Psyduck. If you're fishing, you can get a Psyduck later, but if in the case you do get a Psyduck, the issue with Psyduck, even though Golduck is pretty good, is that it doesn't evolve until I think 37 at that point, so you gotta hold on to a Psyduck for a long time, and it doesn't get stabbed Psychic or anything. For some reason, Starmie is the Psychic one and Golduck is not. So it's gonna be like mid B tier. It's not a bad water type Pokemon. Most of the water type Pokemon in this game are pretty decent, just for being water type Pokemon. Though with that said, you also have the chance in the other game, in Fire Red, you have the chance to get Psyduck, to get your Golduck, whereas in Leaf Green you have a chance to get Slowpoke, and Slowbro is actually pretty damn good. Shit, this thing is right up there with probably Vaporeon. It's really slow. It is extremely slow, but the fact that it gets Stab Psychic, as well as you get 90 base power Surfs and stuff with this special attack, as well as it's especially as well as physically bulky, has high health and stuff. It's just relatively slow, but for the most part, as far as water types, it's pretty high up there. Lastly, if you are going down the eastern side, between 12 and routes 12 and 15, going towards where the Safari Zone is, that town is, you do have a chance to run into Ditto. Ditto sucks, to be honest. So we can put him straight into F, because he's not good. There's very niche cases where you'd want to use a Ditto. He's not good though. So he's going into F tier. Poliwrath and Seaking, again, these are Pokemon that you're going to run into if you have your Good or your Super Rod throughout multiple different routes. It just depends on where. So I'd say Poliwrath is probably a B tier Pokemon. Having that additional fighting type is good. Its moveset's pretty bad, but it can be relatively useful going forward with it being a water type. Not against Sabrina, but can be useful against Blaine, as well as some of the Elite Four members. Whereas the alternative is Seaking, which is dog shit. Seaking is going straight into useless. Seaking is just not good at all. Yeah, Seaking is going straight into F. Seaking is not a good Pokemon. Its attack is okay. Everything else is eh. Going into the Safari Zone, you do have some really small chance encounters for some of these Pokemon. How you want to go about it in your Nuzlocke, up to you. I ran into the Pokemon, and if it ran, then I would just go to the next one and catch that. Whatever would basically stay in the ball, just because of the mechanics for catching, a bit wonky. If you are playing Fire Red, you do have a 1% encounter rate of running into Scyther. Of the two bugs, I'd say it's slightly better. It is a really fast attacker that you can take advantage of, like Aerial Ace, and it's a bug type, the best bug type in the game. However, that's not saying much, just because its moveset's okay. It's not great. You can't get like Eviolite or anything and evolve it. Probably like bottom of B tier. Yeah, it's around there, like Bite Butterfree at that point. Whereas in Leaf Green, you get the short end of the stick, and you're stuck with Pinsir. Pinsir is not good. It doesn't learn any good moves. It learns like fighting, of all things, and it's kind of bulky. It's just not a good Pokemon. So I'm gonna put him in like mid C tier. It's okay. It's an alright Pokemon. As well as you do have a 1% chance to run into Tauros. Tauros is a fantastic Pokemon, honestly. Tauros is really good. Probably like mid-high B tier, but for the fact that it has a 1% encounter rate, you probably ain't running into it. I'm gonna put it bottom of B tier just because even though it's a really good Pokemon, the chances of you running into it is almost like nothing. You'd have Kangaskhan, of course. Kangaskhan, again, is I think a 1% encounter, or 4%, slightly better knockoff Snorlax. We'll put him in bottom of A tier, right up there with like Electrode. It's a good Pokemon to have, however, running into it's a pain in the ass. Chansey's not good in this without the opportunity to become Blissey. Its defense is awful. Its special defense is where it's at. It can have like Recover, Soft Boil, among other things, a decent support. However, in this, it's just not a good Pokemon. It can't really do anything. It can't wall anything. It can take a couple special hits, but we'll put it at like mid C tier. It's just not a great Pokemon. A good Pokemon there is a good Pokemon. Executor into or Execute into Executor. Executor is a really good Grass Psychic type Pokemon. It actually has like an answer into stuff. I'd say it's like, where do we want to put it? It's definitely under Venusaur. It might be up there with Venusaur actually. We'll put it like right up here with Vaporeon. It's just so nice to have a Stab Psychic as well as the bulk behind it. It's just a good Pokemon to have overall. Especially with the 20% chance you're probably going to get this. Aside from that, you do have Rhyhorn into Rhydon. Rhydon is actually pretty decent in this. It's really slow, but does have some really high attack, as well as has the decent moves that you can learn. Of course, you have Earthquake, the level up. Some decent rock moves you can learn, even though they're not very accurate. Bulk is up there. But again, it is a rock type, so it is relatively slow. But I will put it like mid A tier, like right up there with like Hitmonchan. It does have a pretty decent moveset. It is later in the game, but it's still pretty good. With that said, inside the Safari Zone, you do have a 1 and a 15% chance of either getting the 1% Dragonair or a 15% Dratini. This is your chance to be able to get your Dragonite potentially. With that said, because you can't use Dragonite, you're going to be stuck with a Dragonair until the Elite Four or until your level cap is increased to be able to accommodate for Dragonite. Even with it being a pseudo, I'll put him mid A tier. No, I want to put him in S really bad because it's Dragonite. However, the fact that you can't really use it and you're stuck with a Dragonair until you get to the Elite Four if you're doing a Nuzlocke with level caps, it's like high A tier. I mean, it's a Dragonite. It has extremely high base stat total of 600. Basically, it's just really good. However, because you can't really get it, kind of suffers. After that, after going through Koga or going towards Sabrina, going into Saffron's Tower for the Team Rocket stuff, if you go through there, you do get a gift Lapras. Lapras is going straight into S tier. Lapras is, especially for a gift Pokemon, this thing is amazing. It has so many answers into some of the late game stuff for the fact that it is a water as well as an ice type, so you have an answer for Lance because you have that ice type advantage. You can teach it Surf, Thunderbolt. It has so much utility for the fact that you can teach a Lapras a bunch of different stuff. Lapras is really good, has high special attack, really high bulk. Its speed kind of suffers, but with that high of a defense, special defense as well as HP, this thing is definitely better than Venusaur, better than Nidoking, right up there with Snorlax and Gyarados for sure. Aside from that, if you do have Surf, you do have the opportunity to go to the power plant, which is going to be to the east of, I think, Route 6 or what have you, before Rock Tunnel. And you can go into the power plant, and you have an opportunity to run into, most likely, if you're playing Fire Red, you're going to probably get a Magnemite, especially if you've already gotten your Voltorb or your Electrode at that point. Magneton, this is probably me being biased, it's going straight into S tier. The fact that you have an opportunity to have a Steel type in this game, the one Steel type, it can wall so many different things, from dragon moves to other things. The only thing you got to be careful really is, especially if it has Levitating, you don't have to worry about ground moves, is fire type attack. It as well as fighting, I guess. But for the most part, like Magneton walls so many things. Its special attack is through the roof. Its speed is okay, but the defense, of course, being high. It's a steel type, so a bunch of different resistances there. If you are playing Leaf Green, you do have a chance to run into Electabuzz as opposed to Fire Red. You can't. Electabuzz is a pretty decent electric type at that point. It's okay. It's all right. To be honest, I don't think I've ever used one. If you can't get Electivire, I wouldn't bother. So we'll put him like mid B tier. He's all right. He's all right. Journeying south, if you do have the ability to surf, you can go into Seafoam Islands, and you have 2 encounters there. Those being Seal or Dugong, which the Dugong it can be an answer into some dragon types, maybe for lands, because it can have Ice Beam and stuff. So just for the fact that it can have that support, I'll put it like mid B tier, as well as all the other support. The better encounter actually would be Jinx. Not a huge fan of Jinx, though the fact that it's Psychic Ice type actually hits pretty hard. Like this thing can have Stab, Ice Beam as well as Psychic. This thing pretty good, decently bulky, relatively slow. We'll put it like mid A tier. Jinx is actually a pretty decent Pokemon. Likelihood of you running into is pretty slim there though, with all the other water Pokemon, especially if you haven't encountered all of them, because there's a couple different ones. Once you get to Cinnabar Island, especially if you're fishing off of Cinnabar Island, if you're playing Fire Red, you do have an option. You have the opportunity to run into either Shelder or Cloyster. I think it's Shelder. And Shelder's, Cloyster's okay. Relatively bulky Pokemon. That's pretty much it. If you have the opportunity to get other water types, I wouldn't bother. So I'm gonna put it like mid B tier, I guess. Whereas the other option is if you're playing Leaf Green. Leaf Green has some really good ones. Leaf Green, you have an option to get Starmie. Yeah, Starmie's going into S tier. The fact that this thing is it has really high it's like really fast, really high special attack. This thing has cover. Its bulk is okay. The fact that it can have Stab Psychic and Stab Surf, among other moves, including Ice Beam and stuff. This thing is shit. This is like mid S tier. Like Starmie is such an amazing Pokemon to have. The other Pokemon on Cinnabar Island, of course, going into the lab. You do have Amistar. Amistar is okay. I'll put him like bottom of B tier. Kabutops I'll put a little bit higher than that because it can have Shell Armor, which prevents crits, and a Nuzlocke, and that's pretty damn valuable. We'll put him like mid B tier. It's not much better. Just not a good. It's a water rock type. There's not many grass types to answer that right now, but the better fossil, of course, would be Aerodactyl. Aerodactyl I'll put into A tier. It's extremely fast, really high attack. This thing's going mid A tier. This thing hits like a truck. It's really, really fast. It's really good for like into other Pokemon, potentially even lands. Since you're on Cinnabar Island, if you didn't get any of those fossils, or if you're using them, or what have you, I gotta fix. Inside the Pokemon Mansion, you do have 2 more encounters aside from some of the other ones that we ran into, being either Vulpix, Growlithe, or like Raticate, or you do have a chance to run into Ditto, which kind of sucks, but the other alternatives aren't great. You have Muck or Weezing. I'm pretty sure you can get them on either game. Weezing is going to be, or Muck is going to be like mid C tier. It's relatively bulky, it's just not that great. Can't really do much. Whereas Weezing at least is a better status condition Pokemon, and it has some pretty good bulk. It has Levitate, among other things, so it can't be hit by the ground. It can at least live a move, so we'll put it like mid B tier. Even that might be a bit generous, but we'll leave it as is. And the last couple Pokemon that we're gonna run into, because legendaries don't count. Tangela, awful. You have to go to Island 1, or either go towards Pallet Town, and you can get a chance of getting a Tangela either there or at Island 1 if you're doing the story for that. It's just Tangle is a bad grass type encounter. We're gonna put it in useless, honestly. I'm gonna put it in useless. This is not a good Pokemon. By then, if you don't have a fire type encounter, you do have 2 opportunities here, depending on if you're playing Leaf Green or Fire Red. I guess if you're doing Electabuzz, that's Fire Red, whereas Magmar's Leaf Green. Or Rapidash. Rapidash is just okay. Like mid B tier. You can run into it by Treasure Beach, or by Kindle Road on Island 1. And Magmar, if you're playing Leaf Green, you can get in Mount Ember. And that's slightly better. But the fact that you can't get Electivire or Magmora yet, they're just not good Pokemon. I'll put them like bottom of A tier. It's okay. But yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for me. So, as you can see, aside from the legendary birds, down in useless, there's just not good Pokemon there. But we do have some really good Pokemon up towards the top, of course, into the S tier, being Alakazam, Gyarados, Snorlax, Starmie, Magneton, Lapras, Nidoking, as well as Venusaur. Venusaur might have been a bit generous. I might have to put him more into A tier. However, that's going to do it for my ranking of the Nuzlocke. If you are curious on how everything went, I do have a playlist on my channel of my hardcore Nuzlocke run where we went through the whole thing. So if you want to check it out, by all means. With that said, I'm Steelxknight Plays, and see you in the next video. Bye.